In this video, we will talk about how to use Carteret Compass for advising. When you log into Carteret Compass, you will see the Advising tab. When you click on this tab, if there are any advisees who have requested a review of their academic plan, a flag will pop up in the top right-hand corner. Those advisees will now be listed first in your advising list, and you will notice a check mark that is underneath the column for review requested. You should have also received an email from the registrar stating that that student has requested a review of their academic plan. On this screen, you will also see your most accurate list of your advisees. Notice you do have the option up here in the top right-hand corner to email all of your advisees. When you have a plan that you need to review, beside the student's information, you'll click View Details. On this screen, you will see the current semester course plan. You can either arrow to the left to see previous semesters, or you can arrow to the right to see future semesters. So for example, if I looked at this student's fall semester, I can either approve or deny her these courses that she has on her plan for her fall semester. You can choose all the courses at one time and approve them, or you can choose individual courses to approve or deny. Once you have approved or denied courses, you will need to make sure to hit Review Complete for the student to be able to actually register for those classes. You can also archive a course plan that you and the student have discussed. On the Course Planning tab, you can also print a student's schedule. Another thing you can do from here is if a student needs to drop a class and it's during the drop add period, if you click on the Calendar tab, you have the ability to drop students from classes. The calendar view is also a great place for you to plan out student schedules with students because they can visually see what their course schedule is going to look like. If you are working with a student in your office, you can add courses to their plan and you can also register students for classes. You can search for classes one or two ways. You can use the course catalog, or if you know exactly what course the student wants to register for, you can use the search bar in the top right-hand corner. Looking at the course catalog, you can do a subject search or you can do an advanced search. An advanced search is really nice because you get to choose multiple subject areas that the student is interested in taking classes. You can narrow it down by the day of the week. You can narrow it down also by whether it's going to be on campus or off campus. And then if a student needs a class in a specific section or a specific portion of their degree, you can search by the course type as well. Let's just say, for example, this student knew exactly what course she wanted to add to her plan. I can do a search for Humanities 120 in the top right-hand corner, and it's going to bring up any offerings of that course. You have a couple of options at this point. If the student knows exactly what section they want added to their schedule, you can use the drop down and then hit Add Section to Schedule. Please note this does not register them for the course, it just adds it on as a planned class. I'll show you in a second just how to go in and actually register them for the class. Now, if you're working with a student to build their schedule and they're just not quite sure what times they want to take certain classes, another option, rather than choosing the actual sections, is to hit Add Course to Plan. This also helps for future planning as well for semesters in which registration is not open. So if I just hit Add Course to Plan, I can choose what semester the student wants to take the class. So for example, spring semester 2023. And then if you go back to the student's course plan, you will see here that course that I added. Again, I didn't choose what section this time. The easiest thing to do is to go to the calendar view and then scroll down to the course that you added, and you can hit View Other Sections. The nice thing about this is if you just add the course to the plan without choosing the sections, you'll be able to visually see how those courses would pan out depending on the student's availability. So if I hit Humanities 120 and choose the section and hit Add Section, again, the student is not yet registered. If you see a course show up in yellow that is not registered, But if you hit the Register Now button, that will register the student for that section of that class. Notice again, as mentioned prior, you can also drop students from courses from this screen here. Another nice feature of Carteret Compass is the Timeline tab. When you click on the Timeline tab, it will show you the current semester and what students are registered for, but this is also where you can do some long-term planning with your advisees. As I showed you previously, if you search for a course or if you go in the course catalog and you find a course for a student, you can hit Add Course to Plan and add that course to a future semester. This really helps students in terms of motivation, knowing when they're going to graduate. Also too, from the Timeline tab, you can scroll back and you can see previous classes that students have taken. This is also where you're going to want to go to see transfer classes. So if you go to the very front of a student's timeline, if there are any transfer classes, you're going to see them denoted with a grade of T at the very front of their timeline. Also too, you'll notice the first section of a student's timeline is what we call non-term courses, or courses that give a student NC credit. We'll talk about developmental in the next video, but this is where you're going to want to see what a student has come in with credit with in terms of their developmental classes. Also to mention, from the Timeline tab, if there are future planned courses that a student has on their timeline, the nice thing about this is that you can drag and drop these courses. So if a student's plan changes on down the road, you can put that course in whatever semester the student would like to take it in the future. Also, when the time comes for that student to register for that future semester, from the Timeline tab, you can click on the semester at the top, and then it'll bring you back to the course planning screen. So then you can choose sections of that class that students would like to take. One of the most important features of Carteret Compass is the Progress tab. When you click on the Progress tab, you're going to see information on that student's degree program, such as their GPA. You're going to see their current progress in terms of the credit hours they've taken. Do keep in mind this is the total amount of credit hours, so if a student is in multiple programs of study, you do want to be careful with this progress bar. Also too, if a student is enrolled in multiple programs of study, you can arrow over and look at all the programs of study, including certificates that the student is enrolled. But from this screen, you can see how much of a student's degree they have left. This makes the planning portion of Carteret Compass pretty straightforward. If you see that a student section says fully planned, then either they have taken the class or they have the class on their schedule to take in the future. So you can scroll through the student's program of study, making sure that each section of their degree either says completed or it says fully planned. So notice, for example, this section, the student has taken 2 classes, but notice they have a course on their plan for the fall semester. Students should be making their course plans in ACA 122, but again, if a student hasn't or if their plan has changed, notice that all of these courses are linked so that you can click on the course and then add the course to a student's plan for the future. Again, your goal as your advisee on this tab would be to make sure when you scroll through that the student is set to graduate. So, for example, in this section, this might be a little bit of a red flag because it says 3 of 14 credits completed. So in this example, the student has 12 credit hours on their plan, but there's 14 credit hours needed from this section. So you could work with the student to pick what class they would want from this section of their degree to complete the additional Gen Ed courses. You do always want to scroll down to the very bottom of this page to find the Other Courses section. These are courses that are not applying towards the student's program of study. You want to make sure that this is accurate, and these are actually courses that should not be counting. If a student is, for example, a transfer student, there could be potentially courses down here that could count towards your program of study, and you would need to do a course substitution, which we'll talk about in a later video. Again, it's just important for a student's timely graduation to make sure that there's no other courses listed down here that shouldn't be. Also, financial aid will not pick up any of the courses listed under Other unless they're part of another program of study that the student is enrolled. There are other features of Carteret Compass that are important to point out. Beside the Progress tab, there's the Course Catalog tab that we've already spoken about. Beside Course Catalog is the Notes feature. So while you're having an advising appointment, you can take notes here that you can reference in the future. Students can see all of these notes. Students can also put notes, as you can see here. Do keep in mind that these are not sent to your email, so I would encourage you to tell your advisees not to use this as a messaging platform, just to save important notes to reference back in the future. You can see all of the archive plans that you and your advisee have made. Again, in the top right-hand corner, when you hit Review Complete, you will be able to archive your plan so you can see what courses you've talked about during each session. We will talk about test scores in a later video. This tab is important to determine whether or not a student needs developmental math or English. You can download and view a copy of the student's unofficial transcript. You can see their grades from semester to semester, even though I would think the timeline tab would be a little more time efficient rather than using the grades tab. Petition and waivers, we typically do not use this tab here at Carteret. But the graduation application tab is important because from there you can see whether or not a student has applied for graduation. If you have any questions at all about how to navigate Carteret Compass, please make sure to reach out to a member of the advising committee.